Hi! In the recent Q&A sessions that I did for the anniversary of Queen Anne Boleyn's execution, I was asked what objects we still have today that are linked to Anne Boleyn. And it inspired me to put together a video series to introduce you to some of those objects. As I'm a bookworm, yes, the bookcases behind me are evidence of that, I thought I'd start with books and manuscripts that are linked to Anne Boleyn. Now, this is not an exhaustive list, but rather me picking my favourites, the ones that I find really interesting. For more on books linked to Anne, I'd recommend this book, which is James Carley's book, The Books of King Henry VIII and His Wives. As Carley did thorough research into the inventory taken after Henry VIII's death in 1547 and found many books that could be linked to Anne. My very favourites have to be Anne Boleyn's Books of Hours. There are 3 of these linked to Anne, 2 in the collection at Hever Castle and 1 in the British Library. I was lucky enough to hold the 2 at Hever, and that really was a dream come true. I'll share the link to that video. Tim filmed me holding them at Hever. Oh, wow. But let me tell you a bit more about those books. The first one was made in Bruges in around 1450, and it bears an inscription written by Anne Boleyn. Le temps viendra, the time will come, and Anne's signature, Je Anne Boleyn, beneath a miniature of the Last Judgment. There's also a drawing of an astrolabe or armillary sphere, which is a symbol of time. We don't know what Anne meant by this inscription. Perhaps it had religious significance to her. We just don't know, but it's a beautiful inscription. The second Book of Hours at Hever dates from around 1528 and bears the inscription, "Remember me when you do pray, that hope doth lead from day to day, Anne Boleyn." These books are my very favourite Anne artefacts because they're objects that Anne would have used daily and numerous times a day too. Books of Hours are prayer books. They were used to pray the canonical hours during the day and would also contain a calendar of important feast days, extracts from the Gospels and certain psalms. These books would have been dear to Anne, and her DNA must be all over them. The British Library Book of Hours, which dates to around 1500 and was also made in Bruges, has inscriptions by Anne and Henry VIII, and they seem to have used it to exchange messages. Henry wrote in French what translates to, "If you remember my love in your prayers as strongly as I adore you, I shall hardly be forgotten, for I am yours. Henry R. forever." And Anne replied in English under the miniature of the Annunciation, the angel telling the Virgin Mary that she would have a son, "By daily proof you shall me find, to be to you both loving and kind." My second favourite has to be a copy of French reformer Jacques Lefebvre d'Etaples' religious work Les Épîtres, or the Epistles and Gospels for the 52 weeks of the year, with the commentary translated into English. It was prepared for Anne by her brother George Boleyn, Lord Rochford. In a dedicatory letter, George refers to Anne as Lady Marchioness of Pembroke, so perhaps it was a gift after she was made Marchioness in September 1532. The reason I love this manuscript is because it was a gift from George to Anne and because it has this letter from brother to sister. It reads, "To the Right Honourable Lady, the Lady Marchioness of Pembroke, her most loving and friendly brother sendeth greetings. Our friendly dealings with so diverse and sundry benefits, besides the perpetual bond of blood, have so often bound me, madam, inwardly to love you, that in every of them I must perforce become your debtor for want of power, but nothing of my goodwill. And were it not that by experience your gentleness is daily proved, your meek fashion oftentimes put into use, I might well despair in myself, studying to acquit your deserts towards me, or embolden myself with so poor a thing to present to you. But knowing these perfectly to reign in you with more, I've been so bold to send unto you not jewels or gold, whereof you have plenty, not pearl or rich stones, whereof you have enough, but a rude translation of a well-willer, a goodly matter, meanly handled, most humbly desiring you with favour to weigh the weakness of my dull wit, and patiently to pardon where any fault is, always considering that by your commandment I have adventured to do this, without the which it had not been in me to have performed it. But that have had power to make me pass my wit, which like as in this I have been ready to fulfil. So in all other things at all times I shall be ready to obey, praying him on whom this book treats to grant you many years to his pleasure, and shortly to increase in heart's ease with honour. What an insight into their relationship that is, and also their shared faith. I love it. Now, this wasn't the only translation George gave Anne. He also gave her the Ecclesiast, the book of Ecclesiastes, which had been translated into French by Lefebvre, with an English translation of German theologian and reformer Johannes Brenz's commentary. The manuscript of that features a beautiful illumination of Anne's falcon badge. Claire Cherry and I go into detail on these works in our book George Boleyn, Tudor Poet, Courtier and Diplomat. If you want to know more about them, you can find the information there. Another book that's linked to Anne is the Wyatt Prayer Book or Psalter, which is described as a manuscript book of prayers in a binding of gold enamelled, said to have been given by Queen Anne Boleyn to a lady of the Wyatt family. The legend or tradition behind this prayer book is that Anne presented her ladies with miniature prayer books or psalters, and that this particular prayer book was given by Anne Boleyn on the scaffold to a member of the Wyatt family, traditionally thought to have been Lady Margaret Lee, sister of Thomas Wyatt. Historian Eric Ives stated that although such books were very fashionable at the time, there are no contemporary accounts of Anne Boleyn giving out gifts on the scaffold. And George Wyatt, Thomas Wyatt's grandson, makes no mention of this story or of Lady Lee having been present at Anne's execution in his work on Anne. Oh well. You can find out more about that prayer book in an article I wrote on the Anne Boleyn Files website. I'll share a link in the description. But I do like the mystery surrounding that one. This book is manuscript 1070 in the collection of the Royal College of Music and is described as an early 16th century choir book containing 39 Latin motets and 3 French chansons by Franco-Flemish composers. Evidence suggests it was prepared for Anne Boleyn. However, opinion is divided over whether it was prepared for Anne or whether it was actually prepared initially for Marguerite d'Angoulême and passed on to Anne, or whether Anne did in fact compose some of the music herself. Whatever the truth of the matter, the book is definitely linked to Anne Boleyn because her name can be found in the book, and one composition depicts a falcon used by Anne as her badge, pecking at a pomegranate, the badge of Catherine of Aragon. Back in 2015, the Alamar Choir performed some songs from this songbook, and I'll share a link to a video of them performing one of them for you. Other books linked to Anne are a copy of Clément Marot's Le Pasteur Évangélique, which features Anne's arms as queen, and a copy of Jacques Lefebvre de Table's translation of the Bible into French, which has a HA monogram on its cover for Henry and Anne. It's wonderful that these texts have survived, isn't it? Do watch the video of me holding the books at Hever. It was an experience that I will never ever forget, and a very, very emotional one. Hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you very soon. Take care. Bye bye.